Attention, this is your captain speaking. I'm Eva Moriali.
I'm Julia Moser. Prepare for takeoff.
And this is I Couldn't Help But Wander.
The show to get trivia, tips, tricks, and juicy tidbits from all around. We're juicy tidbits today.
The show that asks if you're only in Austin for the weekend, is it a waste of time to spend 4 hours in line at Franklin Barbecue?
Today we're talking about barbecue.
Woo! Very excited.
Hence the juicy tidbits, hot and juicy tidbits from around the world.
Hot, juicy. Also, don't listen to this episode if you hadn't had lunch yet.
Yeah, we are getting...
Bring a snack.
If you don't have access to barbecue, also, like if you're in some place, some sad place, I'm so sorry. But like, you should not listen to this if you cannot satisfy your barbecue cravings.
Barbecue. Exactly. Because we are getting into it this episode with all things barbecue. Prepare yourselves. You will leave hungry. Julia, let's dive in.
Yeah.
You have a boyfriend that is from Texas,
yes.
which I feel like inspires a lot in general.
Yeah. I will say I have been wanting to I love barbecue. I have loved barbecue since pre-Kenny. Although I didn't really grow up eating it.
BCK.
I know, yeah. I didn't really grow up eating barbecue. My mom has like a very low spicy food tolerance. Not that barbecue is really spicy, but like, I don't know. LA does have good barbecue, but it's sort of not really like, it wasn't really part of like my tradition growing up. But it honestly was like, living in New York, there was like one barbecue place that I would go to a lot, and it was more like Texas style barbecue, but it was so good that it kind of like turned me on. And then I ended up going down this rabbit hole of like learning. I traveled a bit for work when I was working at Good Morning America, and we did this city is called Deals and Steals on Wheels, where we went to 5 cities in 5 days. And one of those, I did it 2 years in a row, and I don't remember which cities were which year, but one of those years we did Raleigh, North Carolina, and I tried like whole hog, like vinegar based barbecue for the first time. And it was so different from like that Texas style barbecue that I had in my head. It was pork, but it was just like, it's a totally different flavor. It was so good. And I just got really interested in the kind of like history of barbecue. And like, there are very few things that make me patriotic, if I'm being honest, about America. But like, barbecue is something that makes me a food cult. Like, not to get like cheesy for a moment, but like I do think like American food culture is something that is so unique to us, and the way that it is like mixing of like, we have like immigrant groups, obviously, like, you know, indigenous cultures and slavery and like colonization and
diasporas, exactly,
and the kind of way that all of those things like mix together and then like turn out the unique American experience. And I feel like barbecue is something that is like so uniquely American, and I mean, obviously other cultures have similar things, but like the way that it's sort of manifested. Anyway, I get like proud of us as a country.
No, go along on barbecue. It is really cool.
Yes. And
it is really cool.
Yeah. No. Anyway, so that's all. So I've been dreaming of doing this barbecue road trip for a really long time, which we'll get into a little bit later with our guest.
Yeah.
But I've never tried the South Carolina, the mustard based.
Yes.
I really don't know
I've tried the Trader Joe's chips, the Carolina Gold ones. That's my experience with them. I love barbecue. I mean, I grew up in Jersey, so, you know, we don't really have like a barbecue culture. There's lots of fantastic barbecue restaurants. And again, like I feel like a lot of places just adopt that Texas style barbecue. So I had access to it, and I knew it was like something I enjoyed for sure. It's interesting moving to California because my husband also loves barbecue, but kind of educated me on, you know, every region does, like, you wouldn't think of California having its own regional style barbecue, but it's like lesser known, like Santa Maria style. That, tri-tip. And you want to talk about immigrants, tri-tip, like came from, you know, Mexican immigrant workers working out in the fields in the Central Valley and Central Coast, getting like this scrap meat and reinventing it in a way and creating this, you know, their own style of barbecue, which is really cool. So you don't think of like these different niche barbecue areas, but barbecue is really everywhere. And that sentiment of, you know, smoking meat and cooking meat over fire is so, you know, so uniquely American, and is so like, that I think it's just irresistible and exciting. And there's this sort of, you know, eventness behind cooking barbecue and being together and cooking barbecue for a group and lining up for it, which we'll also get into with our guest. It is fascinating. And I feel like you can go so long on it because it's not just the enjoyment of the food, it's the process of the
Yeah.
food and the nerding out about the food and the where did it come from and the regional styles and all these things. Like, you want to talk about regional styles? I was like, one of my early obsessions was that white barbecue sauce
Oh,
episode
yeah.
of Master of None that Aziz like travels for. So, which is mayo based, and I hate mayo, but like I would try it because it's just cool. There's so much to offer with barbecue. There's so much you can talk about and delve into and get excited about. So we're excited for this episode and we can't wait to bring in our guest.
We're going to take a quick break, but when we're coming back, we're going to be speaking with Texas Monthly's BBQ Editor, which is just like the best job.
Dream job.
Title in the whole world. Yeah. Daniel Vaughn. Stay tuned.
And we're back.
Today we're talking to Daniel Vaughn. Daniel is the author of The Prophets of Smoked Meat, A Journey Through Texas Barbecue, the co-author of Whole Hog Barbecue, The Gospel of Carolina Barbecue, and the barbecue editor at Texas Monthly. He's traveled the world sampling smoked meats at over 1,800 barbecue joints, most of which are in Texas. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us.
Daniel, welcome.
Glad to be with y'all.
Okay.
This is very exciting. Got our first y'all of the episode.
Okay.
So I'm originally from Ohio. We never said y'all. There's not a lot of Texan things that I've picked up, or like I don't feel like I have a Texas accent. My family in Ohio feels like I have a Texas accent, but y'all is just one of those things. It's not. It's just so natural.
I was going to say, and also like now hearing Kenny, Julia's boyfriend, and your accent in comparison, there is that it's Texans don't have a drawl necessarily. It's like a clippy.
Not city Texans.
Slow. No, it's like a slow clippiness to me. And it's very like authoritative.
You get to the Panhandle, out to the Hill Country, get out to West Texas, and there's definitely more of a drawl.
Okay, sorry. I have to interrupt this because I need to know about your job. Barbecue editor is like the best title of a job.
Yes.
Yeah, my job is to drive around the state, fly around the state, find new and interesting barbecue joints, old barbecue joints, wood suppliers, people who build smokers, pretty much anything that is involved with barbecue, and write stories about those people or those products. I
feel like the most famous, at least like in LA, when I think about like Texas barbecue, Franklin Barbecue is the place that is the most famous. Is it worth it?
They even did a pop-up here. Yeah.
Is it worth it to wait in line?
Well, so I can't tell anybody if it's worth it to wait in line. You wait in line one time, and then you can answer for yourself whether it's worth it to do it again.
Okay.
But I can tell you that you should do it once for sure.
Okay.
So the last time I went, I had a lovely coworker, thanks Joe, who got in line 3 Fridays ago. He got in line at 7 a.m. and he was 5th in line at 7 a.m. and they open at 11 a.m. So, yeah, I mean, places like that are rare though. Like I went to Snow's Barbecue. It opens at 8 a.m. on Saturday mornings. It's open from 8 to noon on Saturday mornings, and that's it. And I got out there at 5:30 in the morning. This is, again, like about 3 weeks ago. And I was 78th in line at 5:30.
Oh my God.
I want to talk more about like the ritualism of the line waiting, because I feel like culturally in a lot of cities, people are like, I'm not waiting in line for food. So I want to talk about that and like expectations and the almost what you're describing of like party or celebration of hanging out in line and enjoying it with people.
Right. And those people who don't want to stand in line, like we don't want you there either. Like we don't want that vibe killer of, oh my God, this is so ridiculous. It's like, well, there are lots of great barbecue joints, lots of great whatever restaurant or coffee or bagel that you're standing in line for. There are other great versions of those. And if you hate lines, just go to those other places. Don't come to where we're having a good time and complain about it the whole time. But yeah, there is a sort of line culture at some places. You know, this isn't like widespread in Texas barbecue. There are a select few places, like Truth Barbecue in Houston is one of those places that gets a really long line. Burnt Bean Barbecue in Seguin, right outside of San Antonio. They can bring quite a line right out there on the main square in Seguin. but you know, there's a certain etiquette to the line as well. Like, you know, you can wait in line, you can get there early and let people come in line with you. It's just like, make it a kind of an even count, right? Like one person should not be standing in line for 12 people.
Mhm.
But most importantly, the same amount of transactions, right? One transaction. If there's one person in line and two people get in line with them, that's still one transaction. You don't be making separate orders
Yeah.
and three different credit card swipes.
I also feel like you have to know what you're gonna get when you get to the front.
Be prepared.
And that is the
yes.
other rule. You're in line for hours. There's a menu. Study it, understand it. What do you want? Don't get to the front and be like, "Oh, what do y'all got?"
Yeah.
Like, come on, be prepared.
Yeah.
You've had the time.
What is the farthest you've traveled for barbecue?
I would say the furthest I probably traveled just for the barbecue is Holy Smoke Barbecue in Sweden. It's in the southwest corner of Sweden, really closer to Denmark than it is to Stockholm. It's in Niemschlaga, and it's a seasonal restaurant because they're in Sweden, so it's only open really starting in the spring through the fall. So that's the furthest I've gone to eat the barbecue.
How was it? Yeah.
How was it?
It was great. It was so good. And while we were there, I was there for a few days, and actually I was cooking with them too. And they had reindeer shanks, and they're like, "You want to smoke some reindeer shanks?" It's like, let's do it.
That's crazy.
And they were so good. Oh God, they were good.
What does it taste
amazing.
like?
I mean, it's like, you know, these were farmed reindeer, so it didn't taste super gamey. Somewhere in between pork and beef, I guess.
This is a good jumping off point for this next question because it seems like barbecue is kind of getting adopted and kind of adapted per region internationally. So what excites you about the future of barbecue in that vein? Like, you know, smoked reindeer barbecue in Sweden.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the thing that I've seen, especially in this country, you know, we have our big barbecue capitals of the Carolinas, of Kansas City, Memphis, Texas, and Texas barbecue is outpacing them all by far as what people are adopting when they open up outside of those areas, right? They're opening up in New York or Los Angeles or Seattle or Phoenix or wherever they are. And what I'm excited is when I see those places that they start off with Texas barbecue as their foundation, but then they start bringing in their own flavors from that region, whether it's through the wood that they're using, the proteins that they're choosing, the sides, things like that, the sauces they're using, the carbohydrate that they might serve it with, like instead of white bread, maybe it's tortillas, maybe it's naan. And then, you know, seeing the way that the immigrant community who's come into, especially Texas, but also, man, Southern Junction in Buffalo, New York, you would not expect to find incredible, like, Indian Texas BBQ Fusion in a restaurant.
Where is that? I want that.
Yeah, it's in Buffalo, and it is so good. But seeing the way that these different cultures from outside the country are bringing their culinary talents and using barbecue as the backdrop, as the foundation, as the as the thing that they can add these flavors to. And so many of these cuisines, like if you look at Thai or Vietnamese or Indian, like grilled meats is a huge thing, and replacing that with smoked meats instead is kind of a natural.
Yeah, I was gonna mention Curry Boys Barbecue in San Antonio, or because my boyfriend's in San Antonio, so I'm going for Thanksgiving. And last time I was in San Antonio, I had it, and it was unbelievable. It's like Thai curries, barbecue.
Yeah. Green curry and sausage, the Mossaman curry. Like, yeah, they make incredible curries, great smoked meats, and I was just talking recently with Don Nguyen, who's Khoi Barbecue, Vietnamese barbecue in the Houston area. You also have Blood Bros in Houston. We've got they're doing sort of a Chinese and Vietnamese take on barbecue. We have Smoke and Ash here in Arlington. I live in Dallas, so it's right next door, doing Ethiopian barbecue.
Ooh.
So homemade injera with sliced brisket that is coated in like a clarified butter and Burberry spice.
Oh my God.
I wanted to ask about barbecue hot takes, maybe some spicy takes, or things that you've noticed, or things you want to call out, or your own barbecue philosophies,
Yeah.
etc.
Well, I mean, I wrote a while back about the fact that brisket has peaked, and that's still the case. Like, no, there has been no real breakthroughs in smoked brisket. Y'all mentioned Aaron Franklin, and Aaron Franklin is he is a turning point. Franklin Barbecue is certainly a complete turning point in Texas barbecue. Like, he introduced a new way of thinking about bringing quality ingredients and doing consistently great barbecue day in, day out, brisket after brisket, right? So a lot of people have followed his lead. He put out a bunch of videos and wrote a book about exactly how to do it. Won a James Beard Award. So if you're going to copy a person like in their methods, that's the guy to choose, right? So even if you're copying from someone who copied from him, like it goes back a lot to the principles that he wrote about in his first book. And I think because that style of brisket, the post oak smoke, salt and pepper, not salt and pepper only, but salt and pepper being those primary flavors, wrapping in butcher paper, using prime brisket, that's super fatty and buttery, using all those ingredients. Like, there's been such a sameness of brisket. It's hard for me to get excited because I eat a great slice of brisket. And I know this sounds ridiculous, but there's just so much great brisket that it's hard to really like make an impression with a great slice of brisket, because you're like, all right, cool, check that box. Like, all right, just like everybody else, you're making some really great smoky brisket that's good and peppery. So, that's one of those things that is, I wish I could see some, what's the next version of, or the next, I don't know, improvement point of smoked brisket. Maybe there isn't one.
I was gonna say, I want burnt ends to become. I love burnt ends, and I feel like you don't see them on menus.
See, this is why you don't want burnt ends to become a thing in Texas.
Why not?
Because in Kansas City, they take off all of the fatty brisket and they chop it all up and they turn it into burnt ends. And so when you ask for sliced brisket, all you can get is generally dry ass sliced lean brisket.
That tracks. Because
and
I've gone
so-
places where I've gotten the brisket and the burnt ends, and the
Right.
brisket was meh, and the burnt, because it takes all the fat. Duh.
Right.
Okay.
So
That's so interesting.
we in Texas serve, fatty brisket as sliced brisket.
Yeah.
And if you want a burn end in Texas, it's like literally just there's a few bites along the two edges that can give you those burnt ends.
All right.
Rather than taking all of the fatty brisket, cubing it up and turning it into burnt ends.
That's a good take too.
All right.
We're getting educated.
Wait.
Also the brisket, it's two muscles, right? So you get the fatty end, you get the lean end, but they do overlap, right? And right here, the lean end underneath the fatty, that is the worst part of the brisket. So it's only like you can tolerate it because it's along with the rest of the big piece of the fatty slice, right? But if you take all that fatty away and all you're given is those lean slices, you get that under lean, and it's just it's.
Well, I was just gonna say, you
worst.
mentioned Kansas City. I have been like dreaming of doing like an American South road trip where we just are focusing on like regional barbecue styles. So I want to do like the mustard and the vinegar. Like, what do you have advice for that trip? Like, are there states that get overlooked or styles that you feel like? I mean, Texas has kind of become the norm, but like, I don't know.
Well, North and South Carolina are still bastions of whole hog barbecue. And if you really there aren't that many of them. So if you map out where the whole hog barbecue is, the ones that have survived are really great. Now, there are some new ones coming in, but like if you look at Scott's Barbecue in Hemingway, South Carolina, they're doing whole hog the way they've done it for many, many years. Rodney Scott, who came out of that family, has the Rodney Scott's barbecue chain, but they do whole hog the right way over wood coals. He mops it with his. It's funny. I've seen these TikToks of people watching Rodney Scott and the people who work for him mopping the meat with like actual cotton mops, like, and they're like, oh, that's disgusting. It's like they weren't mopping the floor beforehand, right? This is all this mop is used for, and it's mopping a whole hog. We're not mopping a rack of ribs here. And then Sam Jones Barbecue and Skylight Inn doing Eastern North Carolina style whole hog barbecue. And then you get down to Charleston, a place like Palmyra Barbecue, which is a new spot, and he's got Puerto Rican and Texas flavors, but he's also incorporating the Puerto Rican flavors into the whole hog seasoning, and he does some of the juiciest whole hog that I've eaten anywhere. Man, there's Heights Barbecue is another great one for whole hog, which I think gets overlooked. It is in Columbia.
Okay.
And then City Limits Q is a newer spot that sort of brings the South Carolina and Texas barbecue together as well. And he serves smoked brisket, but also does like South Carolina hash, which is hash and rice is like it is the definitive stew to be served with Carolina barbecue, South Carolina barbecue, really. Like every barbecue style sort of has its own stew with it, except Texas. Like why chili isn't served at more barbecue joints, I'm not quite sure. Smoked brisket chili is a delicious thing.
Oh, yes.
You don't find it that often, but you've got burgoo in Kentucky, you got Brunswick stew in Georgia, and up in North Carolina you got the hash and rice in South Carolina. So stews and barbecue, I like it.
I could talk to you for hours, so this is like very sad for me.
Oh, well, and you asked, let me answer one of the questions you asked early on, and it's like, you want to put together a barbecue road trip, and it's like, we at Texas Monthly, we put out our top 50 barbecue list. It also includes 50 honorable mentions of 100 great barbecue joints, like all over Texas, and we have that all on our barbecue app. So if you've looked at the Texas Barbecue Finder app, like you can see what's the closest barbecue joint to you that we recommend. So, and then
that's crazy.
Right now, I'm working on the search for the next top 50. We do it every 4 years, and so the next one's going to come out. It'll be out next May.
Should we move on to some trivia?
I don't know if I'm ready for it.
Let's do it. Julie, up first.
Before this 90s music icon became the princess of pop, she appeared in a commercial for Mall's barbecue sauce. Was it A, Christina Aguilera, B, Britney Spears, C, Gwen Stefani, or D, Jessica Simpson?
Oh, man. Gwen Stefani?
No, it was Britney Spears.
Britney was in a Mall's commercial? Are you kidding?
Yeah. Question number 2. Mutton shoulder appears on the menu at this American barbecue joint in London. Is the name of the restaurant A, Cowboy Charlie's, B, American Owl's, C, Texas Joe's, or D, Yankee Doodle Dandy's American Style Piggery?
Well, I have eaten the lamb at Texas Joe's,
yes.
So I'm going to say Texas Joe's.
You did it.
You're
Nicely
right.
done.
Yes.
See, you've been there. Tell us about the lamb and mutton and how that restaurant was.
Yeah, the restaurant, I mean, it is Texas through and through. Like there's Texas memorabilia. There's like a letter up there from like a Texas representative. There's like a official Texas flag on the wall, like that he got from the Capitol. It is Texified for sure. Really good sausage. Actually, the thing that we ordered seconds of was the cheese fries.
Interesting.
Gosh.
Something about that English cheddar.
So
just
good.
Great English cheddar being just, that's all it was.
Yeah.
Just English cheddar melted over some really good French fries.
Sounds great.
And like we couldn't get enough of them. The mutton shoulder was great. I mean, for the uninitiated, like mutton is just a little bit older lamb. So, yeah.
What's your favorite side, really quick?
So my favorite side is one that's just not all that common in barbecue. Like if there's an onion ring on the menu, I am gonna order it for sure, and be highly disappointed if it's a frozen onion. But as far as side items that you find at just about every barbecue joint, like I love a good macaroni and cheese. I hate the proliferation of cavatappi and white cheddar because I know that that's probably a Stouffer's product that they're using. But yeah, a really good baked mac and cheese. Like I like it baked. Creamy one's good, but give me that brown.
Yeah, I like that crispy,
cheesy, melty crust on top, and that's the way I prefer it.
Yeah.
What are y'all's favorite barbecue sides?
Cornbread, because I like this. I like for absorbing all of the juices in the sauce. I really love like a good collard green when it has like Yeah.
turkey neck and
uh-huh.
Yes.
Baked beans, when they're good, I like them, but I'm picky about them. I often feel like they're too sweet.
Yeah, so you'll like Texas pinto beans because usually they're more on the savory side, and that is something that you can really judge a barbecue joint on. Because if they do that canned baked beans like Kansas City loves, and it's like, come on, just try it. Like, making beans from dry is not that hard. Making a good bowl of pinto beans that shows like care and effort, and the fact that you actually started with dry beans, that tells you something about the care and the effort that you're willing to put into the smoked meats as well. So yeah, and the collard greens, I'm with you on. If there are greens and mac and cheese on a menu, that is the combination. Like, the two of those together. Like you can make yourself feel like you're being a little bit healthier.
Yes, exactly.
With the greens.
It's a salad.
Yeah, exactly. It's just wilted salad.
No, I completely agree on collard greens, and they're very nostalgic for me. Like growing up, my great grandma and stuff. Just they're so good when done right. This is a bit morbid, but my husband is white, and we went to a family member's funeral a couple years ago and went to the repast, which is like our version of, when you sit down and eat with everyone afterwards and like, memorialize the person. And he was like woofing the food and he was like, what are these collard greens? It was incredible.
I
but
thought
he'd
you were
never
gonna
had
say
like collard greens like that before.
I thought you were going to say he offered to make the collard greens for the event.
No, but he's probably on track. Like, he's a great cook, so I believe he can do anything collard greens. I don't know, but I agree with mac and cheese, and it should be baked when it has the crispy top. Ugh, phenomenal! Like, instant order for me too.
You enjoyed the pro tip earlier, so the best batch of collard greens I've ever made was in a big turkey fryer, and I had smoked a whole hog, and so I had a smoked whole hog head, and I just boiled that head to make the stock.
Wow.
And used that stock to make the collard greens, and we were doing, instead of pickleback shots, we were doing pot liquor backs on whiskey shots at the end of the evening, and it was just an incredible, magical, gelatinous, peppery flavor.
Oh my god!
I want some more.
Oh my god, that sounds incredible!
Oh my god, bottle that! Send me 6 bottles of that. Oh my god, that sounds incredible. Love, obsessed.
Okay, we're moving. I'm doing question 3.
I'm moving on. Yes.
In which New York set TV show does a Southern character refer to pastrami as Yankee barbecue? Is it A, Friends, B, Sex and the City, C, Girls, or D, Mad Men?
That sounds like a girl's line.
It's Mad Men.
Oh, okay.
Smokey Robinson's tour writer included a provision that his dressing room have a platter of barbecued chicken wings, and he's not alone in having very specific chicken requests in his writer. How does Beyoncé request her dressing room chicken? A, seasoned with fresh garlic, seasoned salt, black pepper, and cayenne pepper. B, heavily seasoned. That's heavily seasoned in all caps. C, baked and juicy. Or D, legs, wings, and breast only.
I feel like she has earned specificity with her fame, so I'm going to go with A.
You're going to go with A? Is that final answer?
Yeah.
Yeah? It's E, all of the above.
Oh.
Which
we'll give you.
So
we'll
I'm
give
right.
you that. Yeah,
you are right. Because I thought you were gonna say based on the specificity thing that she would request all of that, but she does.
Yeah, juicy baked
Incredible.
chicken, legs, wings, and breast only. Please season with fresh garlic, seasoned salt, black pepper, and cayenne pepper. All caps, heavily seasoned. 2 exclamation points. Okay, last question. Related as like a factory tour type situation and baked beans. We're getting into sides. Which of the following attractions is not at the Bush's Baked Beans Visitor Center in Chestnut Hill, Tennessee? A bean scale where you can find out your weight in beans. B, Duke the dog. C, a baked bean fountain. Or D, a giant golden bean.
I don't think there's a baked bean fountain.
That's correct.
Yay!
I wish there was.
But I wish there was like a baked bean pool. Yeah.
Like mud wrestling in a Baked bean pool.
When I was
Yeah.
trying
That's
to
right.
come up with a fake baked bean attraction, I suggested a baked bean pool, and I was like, it would be too obvious that wouldn't, but it should. I want to know what that's like.
Well, you did amazing. You got 1 out of 5.
2, we're giving the Beyonce question. You get
2.
the Beyonce.
We're giving the Beyonce question. Yeah.
You got
Yeah,
this
it would
from
be
I've
too
read the
easy.
previous episodes. I know yes, I know your shenanigans with these trivia questions. They're humbling.
Or
I know we bring on experts and they all fail. I don't know.
Well, you at least added multiple choice this
Yes.
time. Like the lady from France, I was like, this poor woman.
that was
Like, these
why we
questions.
did that.
Wow.
Yeah. That
Uh-huh.
didn't go so great.
Well,
A+ though. A.
All right.
when we come back, we are going to talk about vegans.
All right. Let's do it.
And we're back.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
We're
Eva,
back.
what are we
Let's
talking?
talk about
Yeah,
vegans.
Eva, what are we talking about?
That
I'm
was a
going to let
great
you take the reins here.
I'm very interested in this ongoing drama here in LA, which is it's a very LA tale. All of our quandary options do surround vegans and veganism. So we had some Am I the Asshole style family drama of not providing vegan food for a family event. But we also, the thing I'm referencing is this place called Sage in LA that was one of like the first mainstream vegan restaurants. And the owner has gone kind of right wing in the vein of RFK, brainworms, etc.
Serving bear now.
Yeah. What did he do? He like cut up like a octopus
A
head or
whale's
something
head.
and like
Put, like, a
mounted
bear
a
in his
whale
stomach.
He
head.
also did the bear.
And then the whale, he did the whale in the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's crazy man. Roadkill obsessed.
So this
And-
restaurateur is serving meat now?
They serve meat now, but she moved to Texas because, Texas has more, they support small business owners more.
He was
And
doing air quotes. I want to
she
just
went
like
on,
for the audio.
Yes, thank you.
listeners.
But essentially, she went on Fox News and was like, oh, I'm going to start serving regenerative meat, again, air quotes, and regenerative meat in the sense that like the whole ecosystem of her farming practices revolves in ethically slaughtering this meat and the way it's raised, and the feed and everything goes back into the environment, and the carcass gets used, and all these things. And essentially, she announced it earlier this year. And so they began serving meat, and the restaurant got like picketed and
People were
boycotted, and it was a huge
mad.
thing. People were the vegans
In Los
were
Angeles.
angry.
Yes.
Well,
In
yeah,
Los Angeles,
and I can
we
understand
don't want to
that.
fuck
Like,
with the LA
in this
vegans.
case, and I'm sorry, the vegans are right. Like, if your whole thing is
Ooh.
about not killing animals, like you need, however you raise them, you do need to kill them if you want to eat them.
Yeah.
Oh,
That is
I love
hot take.
yes, it is a hot take. I want to get more into this because now we're in an era where we're exploring alternative meat, but not only that, we're going one step further where it's this lab grown meat and practices like regenerative farming. And yeah, really wanted to get your take on it of like, does something like lab grown meat still constitute as like veganism? Can vegans eat lab grown meat, or should it be served on menus?
If vegans can't eat, cheese that's made from rennet or wine that uses animal products, then they certainly can't eat meat that's grown in a lab. It's got to start with an animal. It's got to start with something extracted from an animal in order for it to even start.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so.
Have you had
But
good...
I think the question about all of those things, or not really the question, just the simple fact is like the amount of meat we consume in our country and in other countries in the world that meat is a huge part of their diet. The scale at which we'd have to produce these things, like regenerative farming, is a great idea. It really is. I'm 100% behind that, but it can't be done. We don't have enough land to do it on a large enough scale to feed the appetite that we have for meat. It just can't be done, right? Like the American system is centered around young, fat cattle, and we got to get them that we got to get them fat as quickly as possible, and we don't want them to get old because they don't, they start to taste a little more pungent like that mutton, right? We want them young and fat and sweet, and that requires confining animals and feeding them a whole lot of grain. And grass-fed beef, like I've had really great grass-fed beef, especially some Wagyu beef from Peeler Farms outside of San Antonio. Like they do great. They raise great beef, but like Peeler Farms, I think they slaughter, I don't know, 5 cows, 5 a month. Like it's just not that much when you think about the amount of beef that we consume. So, I think if we want to focus on animal welfare, focusing on how the big beef processors and the big meat processors are doing it is going to be more beneficial to more animals. Certainly saying that you're getting your beef from a regenerative farm or having someone tell you that they run a regenerative farm is going to make you feel better. But I think, if we could just improve sort of animal treatment across the board for these large animal, the larger farms, the larger feedlots, things like that, then the better off we could all feel, I guess.
Yeah.
As long as you're okay eating animals.
I was gonna ask you, have
definitely.
you had like vegan barbecue, and does it?
I've had a lot of vegan barbecue, yeah. And every time I want to write about it, every time I do write about it, my editor's like, nobody reads this. Like,
really?
yes, she does. And I'm like, I know that I'm doing this for a small percentage of readers. It's fine. But yeah, I mean, I did a roundup. It was probably about 6 months ago. I did a roundup of just 3 different new they were, meat alternatives, barbecue alternatives in the freezer section, made with tempeh, and did a little taste test with them. And, none of them are going to satisfy you if you're a meat eater.
Right.
And the people who want these products aren't comparing it to meat either, because they don't eat meat.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, it's sort of a stupid question. Like, how's it compare to meat? Like, not well. But is it, can you eat it? Like, how's a carrot compare to meat? Like, I like carrots, but how does it compare to meat? Like, it's an unfair fight here.
This is something that I think about a lot, because like I do eat meat, but I do like a veggie burger when it's like a good like black bean, or like people do interesting things with vegetables.
Right, because you're tasting and enjoying the vegetables. And so I've written about vegan barbecue in the past that is more focused on barbecue restaurants that are using, how are they cooking down onions, or how are they smoking onions or eggplant or carrots? Like Leroy and Lewis Barbecue in Austin, they do this this miso glazed carrot. It's smoked. It is smoked, then poached, then miso glazed, and then grilled. And
That sounds incredible.
It's the best carrot I think I've ever eaten. It's amazing, right? And so. And it's something that they make sure not to put animal products in, so that if a vegan does come, that they can have something to enjoy. They also do smoked beets sometimes as well, like smoked cabbage. I've done recipes for smoked cabbage. I think cabbage is still one of our really underappreciated, underutilized vegetables out there. I think its structure. I think, the cauliflower, if the cauliflower is way overrated, then cabbage is on the other end of the spectrum. And I think the two of them can do really similar things. And just about every barbecue joint already has cabbage in the building, right? They're making coleslaw. And so doing a smoked cabbage really does give you that sort of meaty flavor, and you can quarter it and finish it on a grill. So, focusing on ways that you can make vegetables taste a different level of delicious because of using smoke to cook them, and using long, low cooking times instead of hot and fast, I think is a better way to look than tempeh, or, yeah.
Yeah. All right, I think we've come to the end because
we have to let you go, because if we don't,
we'll keep you
we're
here
gonna hop
forever.
on a flight right now. Daniel, thank you so much for your time, your insights, your wisdom, for
your hot tips,
bearing with us with our
hot tips about
bearing
getting
with us
to
with our trivia.
Before we started recording, you gave me the best hot tip, which was, what was it? Burnt bean barbecue.
Burnt bean barbecue. Get there 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
Okay. Daniel, thank you so much for joining us again. Where can the people find your work?
I am at if you put in tmbbq.com, it'll show up. But we have a whole barbecue page at texasmonthly.com that's dedicated to just my barbecue stories and a few others sprinkled in there too. But that's my full-time job. Just writing about barbecue, churning out as many barbecue joint stories as I can, and if I had a professional mission statement, it would be just connecting people to good barbecue.
It's been a dream. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that brings us to the end of another I Couldn't Help But Wander. Thank you to Daniel for joining us. Best guess. Killed it.
You can find this show wherever you get your podcasts or at circatravel.com. That is CERCA travel.com.
That's also where you can get Circa's audio guides to your favorite destinations like Barcelona, Paris, Rome, all written and voiced by locals.
And if you have a moment, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. It really helps people find our show. And we know it can be awkward, so in lieu of a standard review, leave us your favorite side.
You can find me at Julia Moser with 4 R's on Twitter, Instagram, and with 5 R's on TikTok.
And you can follow my online and in real life adventures at Eva Pants on Instagram.
Thanks for listening and happy wandering.
Happy wandering!
Happy eating.
Enjoy.